All right, I think we are finally live. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, and we're coming at you with our reaction, our review for the Xbox Game Showcase. And with me, as always, I have my co-host, the wonderful Jez Corden of Windows Central. What is going on, buddy?
Hey, buddy. Pretty good, man. So glad it's Friday, though.
I know, right?
It's been a long week, man. A long week.
Yesterday was a very long day.
It was
a lot of sitting in front of the computer, watching things go down, and then checking out all the Halo Infinite memes once the show ended.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of memes.
A lot of memes, yeah.
Did you enjoy the memes?
Oh yeah, I love the memes, dude. Here's the thing. Like, I remember the Xbox guys posting all the bug snacks memes, after the PS5 showcase. Yeah. And I'm a fan of a good meme, and that the Brute meme is it's hilarious to see people's creativity with it. So every time I see one, and I just have a good laugh. Like, you can't get upset at that. It's just like, it's just too funny. And the C343 just embrace the meme and call him Craig. I thought that was hilarious. But we'll talk more about that now. We were last week when we did the show said, hey, we're going to try to do it Thursday, but you ended up being pretty busy and I ended up being pretty busy. So fortunately we couldn't do it yesterday. You had a bunch of interviews after the games conference, right? The game showcase.
I did. Yeah. I had a few. Yep.
Did you write about them on Windows Central?
Not yet. I'm doing something about Crossfire X next week. So I got to see that behind closed doors, saw some campaign footage. In fact, I can talk about it on the show as well, actually, because there's no embargo for that. I also saw Halo Infinite with, I don't know what to call it. Like the same gameplay I saw on stage, but with developer commentary this time, explaining a little bit more of their thinking behind some of the elements and stuff. There wasn't a ton of new details there, but I can talk about some stuff they said and some stuff that came out in the interviews from across the industry.
Right.
We can talk about that in a bit.
Yeah. So we're not going to really talk about the games we played unless you really want to, because I was going to kind of save that for next week. Do you want to talk about the games we played? And this show can just literally be about everything that happened yesterday. What do you think, Jez?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I will just say, like, for people who are interested, I'm currently playing a game called Other Side, and usually I'd agree to skip over it, but not enough people are talking about this game. Like, if you're into turn-based tactics games, Other Side's like anime turn-based tactics. Like, it's kind of like Nier Automata if it was a turn-based tactics game. It's really gorgeous. It's very bloody. It's very violent, and it's brutally difficult. And you should check it out, Google it and stuff. But I just wanted to mention that before we moved on, because I don't think enough people are talking about it.
Yeah, I'm not even. Did it come out yet? Because I'm not even sure it's out. I think
it's not out yet. It comes out next week on Xbox, PC, and PS4, and then later on Switch.
Right.
And it's just it's like a turn-based tactics with roguelike elements. You play like a bunch of I don't even know what to call them. It's the story's vague. I think you're inside someone's mind and it's all messed up, and there's like nightmare creatures coming at you, and you have to sort of control like an army of memories. It's hard to describe, actually, but I just started playing it earlier. It's all black and white, but the blood it's black, white, and red. So like there's loads of blood, and that's the only red thing. The art style is really oppressive, and I think maybe some people won't like that aspect of it, but I actually really do like that aspect of it. It makes it unique and stuff like that. So maybe I'll get some gameplay footage and we can put it on when we're podcasting next week.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I've been playing just really quickly before we move on. Ghost of Tsushima on the PlayStation 4, my PlayStation 4 Pro. Really good game. It's my first Sucker Punch game, as I haven't played any of the Infamouses yet. Although I do own them on the PlayStation. I haven't played Infamous 2 or Infamous First Light. Really like what I'm doing. It's going to take me a long time to complete that game, though. It's completely open world with a lot of things and a lot of places to visit. But I'm digging the combat quite a bit, and the story's pretty interesting. So I'm still on the first island. I feel like I played the game for like 12 or 15 hours already. So hopefully I'll have the game finished, and then I'll give my like full complete thoughts next week. But I'm really enjoying it though. It's fun. And I just want to take a little bit of time to mention, thank you to everybody who's shown up the podcast today, and especially the ones who have messaged me privately or tweeted me and said, "Hey, hope your back is feeling better. These are the things that I've done. When I had back problems, like they have pretty much fully gone away. I'm kind of like 90%, but I guess that's what I get for giving up sugar." My body was just like, "What are you doing giving up sugar? We're going to put you in pain." And yeah, that whole weekend, I was probably in the worst pain I've ever been in my life. My back,
my God.
like I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of bed. I needed help to get out of bed. Like that's how painful it was to move and sit up or stand up or do anything. But as of today, like a week later, everything's basically back to normal. So that's what I get for cutting out caffeine cold turkey and basically not putting any sugar in my body. I mean, like it's like you tweeted out, like we're the Xbox Diet Podcast now, right?
Yeah, we are. I'm also dieting, man. Yeah. We are now the Xbox Dieting Podcast. But I wasn't a big sugar guy. My issue is all like eating too much like carbohydrates, man. Too much bread.
Yeah.
Too much pasta. But I've cut right down calorie counting. Planning to lose 100 pounds, so let's see how that goes.
Yeah, so thank you guys for all the messages and the comment sections and in the tweet. It means a lot. Shout out to Sin Vendetta. He says, "Man, that Xbox game showcase didn't feel filmic enough." Yeah, that's the one thing. I mean, it was 60 frames, every showcase should be 60 frames and not that filmic 30. But enough with that filmic stuff. And shout out to Mike. He says, "Is Crossfire X the same Crossfire by Smilegate?" It is, but it's like a separate campaign that they're building, right? It's like Remedy's building a campaign for the game. And Robert says, "Love Halo, but after 5 years, a new engine wanted more." Halo seems to be kind of getting a very mixed reaction online. I would say. A lot of people kind of loving the gameplay. Like, I'm one of them, as I said in my video. Love the gameplay. A lot of people not really liking the graphical powers or the way the game looks or anything like that. But we'll go in depth into our thoughts on this stuff here. And Benny Bick says, "Balan Wonderland should have been in the main event. It was awesome and nice little deep dive. Where was all the promised gameplay? We will do better." Balan Wonderland, yes. I think that was the new game from the Sonic creator and Knights creator that they put in the pre-show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not my type of thing whatsoever. So I figured, you know what? Let's start off with a topic, Jez, really quickly. I'm going to give your thoughts on this. Did Microsoft and Sega accidentally leak the Xbox Series X release date?
You mean...
Oh, you switched mics. Oh, now you're back to the regular one.
Oh, what? Sorry.
You went from your other mic to your mic you're currently using, really, really quickly. It was weird.
Oh, that's strange. Hang on. It might be a setting I messed with. So, what do you mean? Because they said a game would be a launch game. And
yeah. So I made a video, and I mean, could be wrong. I get stuff wrong all the time. I'm not perfect, right? That
you're not perfect.
I'm not perfect. I'm not Randall perfect. Even though I will point out, if you watched my video from Monday, my prediction video, my preview video for this showcase, I nailed every single first-party game at the show, even State of Decay 3. Every single one I said that was going to be at the show was at the show. I got to give myself a pat on the back. I don't think I've ever nailed it completely like that. Yeah, it's hard to really get third-party stuff.
It's easy when you know.
Well, I didn't know State of Decay 3 was going to be there.
You didn't?
I mean, I didn't know for sure. On Monday, absolutely not. The only thing I knew on Monday was Halo Infinite was going to start the show, and that Fable was closing the show, and that Obsidian's game was going to be there, essentially. And that's it. I didn't know anything else. But I nailed everything else. So it's kind of why why I liked the show, because it was exactly the show I predicted it would be, just with no gameplay. So,
Rand Al Psychic. Drop that hashtag on Twitter.
yeah. Creek Cross says, "Do you know which game was actually running on a Series X yesterday?" Probably none of them. Maybe Forza. I mean, it wasn't really clear. A lot of the games, I don't really know. Jez, do you have any idea how many games were running on Series X yesterday? I mean, Halo wasn't. That was confirmed to be running on PC.
I think none of them.
Yeah, I don't really think any of them were. And Geek
they
says
they were all running on dev kits because that's what happens, you know. Not that many people have retail units yet. So
Geek says, how many games did they held back? I mean, we didn't see anything from Compulsion or In Exile or Project Mara. I mean, we didn't even learn anything really new about Hellblade. The Initiatives game, Coalition. I mean, so there's some stuff, but I don't know if the stuff's coming out any time soon. There's probably some games from Global Publishing as well in the work, but they obviously didn't showcase those, so who knows. But yeah, back really quickly to the Series X thing. So pre-orders went up for the Yakuza game, the Yakuza 7 or whatever it is. I think it's like a Dragon, and it's launching November 13th, that Friday, and you can start playing it digitally on November 12th at 6 p.m. But remember when it was at the Winter Soldier says, where was the Battletoads? So that was a guess. I thought because Battletoads was rated that it would be shadow dropping. You know, you don't get everything completely right.
Oh, so you didn't get everything.
Well, I didn't. I said it would be a shadow drop, and it wasn't.
Didn't get everything.
Ben says that he really likes us, but Rand is always so arrogant. Am I arrogant? I don't think I'm very arrogant. I'm just giving myself props for getting those predictions right. I'm not arrogant. So yeah, the game's launching on November 13th, and then if you go all the way back to May 7th when they did the Inside Xbox, the article from the Sega of America was Yakuza Like a Dragon is a day one launch title for Series X, and that it's coming day one with the system. So, am I wrong to put two and two together and say, well, if the game's coming out on November 13th, and they already said that it's a launch title for Series X, day one, is that when you could expect the Series X to come out?
I think that's a strong possibility for two reasons. A, because of that, and B, because Amy Hood let slip in the investor call that it was coming in the November holiday season, whatever that means. So it does certainly seem like we're looking at a November launch for this thing.
Yeah.
I right now believe November's probably the date, unless Microsoft's doing some super, secret trickery to then suddenly announce it sooner. But I don't think so. I think they've always said holiday. November is holiday. I think it's pretty fair to assume it probably will be holiday now.
Yeah. November 13th, though. Friday the 13th. Spooky. It's very spooky. And then the only question left is really okay, if that's truly the date, which it probably is at this point. Unfortunately, I would like my system in October that I speculated on. Maybe, because me and you and a bunch of other people had heard that the original plan, probably before COVID, was that it was going to come out in September and that Lockhart would come out in November, which I'm confident was probably the original plan before everything kind of went horribly south. And I thought, well, maybe they can get it out in October, but it doesn't really seem like that's the case. Now the question is do they launch both systems day one on November 13th? Are they, is one November 13th, one November 20th? Is the PS5 the week before on November 6th, or is it the week after on November 20th? I'm going to assume both systems will all be out, or, all three essentially, both from Microsoft and the two from PlayStation will definitely be out before, the Thanksgiving holiday shopping season. Is this something to keep in mind? Either way, I can't wait to get my Series X. Although, I will say, though, Jazz, that showcase didn't do a very good job of selling people on Series X. Although that's not really Microsoft's main focus at this point. Clearly, they don't really care. I don't know how many times I got to repeat this to people, but they don't really care if you buy the Series X. All they really care about is if you're subscribed to Game Pass and playing the games in their ecosystem. But it wasn't a really good showcase for Series X, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't really a I think like they really needed Hellblade gameplay. If Hellblade looks as good as it did last year, having like even a small slice of Hellblade gameplay could have been like the thing to point to and be like, well, look at this. This is like showcasing the actual power of the Xbox Series X. But they didn't really have anything in there like that really said, oh, you need an Xbox Series X for this. You know, save for maybe like the Medium, but again, it's like, you know, that's a narrative horror game. You kind of like, I think about what Sony did with Ratchet and Clank, and that was more impressive from a gameplay perspective than anything Microsoft showed, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In terms of next gen, in terms of things that you needed next gen hardware to produce, you know. So I think I agree with you that it wasn't a great show for Xbox Series X necessarily, but I think it was a good show for the ecosystem, especially when people like us have been banging on at Microsoft to be a bit more bold and, you know, announce things further away.
Yeah,
I know we've definitely said that on the show.
That's the thing. Like, so my thoughts about the show were like, it was the show I predicted clearly, and I've been one of the people very vocal about, tell me what you're working on in the future. I don't even really care if it's 2 years away. I just want to know what you're doing. Because the last few years haven't really been great in that regard. It's kind of like, yeah, you know, Sea of Thieves is coming, State of Decay and Crackdown, but if you're not fans of those things, like, what do you have to look for? And it was like, oh, just Gears or just Ori. Like, sell me on, you know, what you would call a hope and a dream. Very similar to what, you know, Sony was very good at. Like, here comes E3 2016, boom, God of War, boom, Days Gone, you know, Last of Us 2 eventually at the end of the year, Spider-Man. Now, you may not be interested in all of those things, but one of them may catch your eye, and you'd be like, okay, that's the game I really want. So they did that. You know, they dropped Obsidian's new RPG. They finally announced Fable. They'd be like, here's State of Decay 3. Halo Infinite's coming right away. They definitely showcased games that are clearly not coming out anytime soon. So they did exactly what I wanted. It's just, I kind of wish the trailers were a little bit longer, or maybe showed a little bit more gameplay. But that's kind of why, like, I gave it an 8, because it's like, all right, I know, like, I know, like, for a long time I always said that, you know, the memes around Xbox being that it has no games, and what really can you look forward to with Xbox? And now it's like, well, now there's plenty of stuff to look forward to. The problem is, like, they're just far away, which is to be expected because games don't grow in trees. You know, they bought these studios in 2018. They all started working on projects, you know, 4 years, 3 years to make stuff. But yeah, that's kind of my initial, like, thoughts. Like, it could have been better. Like, the show could have been, like, if they showed gameplay or a longer, more involved trailer for Fable and Avowed, and maybe cut out some of the other things. Like, I have no idea why Ori 2 was there. Like, especially when they had a separate Xbox Wire post talking about the updates to Forza Horizon 4 and Gears 5 and Sea of Thieves. Yeah. Well, I was like, okay, that's cool, but, like, was Ori 2 there because it was the only thing that showcased what Series X could do? Because they specifically said, okay, this is going to run at 120 hertz, which we've never been able to do before on the console. And I kind of thought to myself, well, this has to be here because they at least want to mention what the console can do. Otherwise, like, I would have just grouped that together with the other announcements in the Xbox Wire article. That was kind of weird, but yeah, a lot of people giving their opinions about the show in the chat. So make sure you guys let us know. Give us a score out of 1 to 10. What you thought about the conference? I thought it was an 8, as I said in my video. 7.5 to an 8 is pretty much what I'm feeling at this point after sleeping on a little bit. Jez, you originally gave the show a 9. What are you thinking after sleeping on a little bit, after thinking about it some more? What do you think about it? Is it still a 9 to you, or are you?
No. After I slept on it, I thought, like, maybe it was more like an 8. the hype for I like State of Decay, and I've been following that studio for so long, and I really, Jeff Strain, and back from his World of Warcraft days, I really, really want them to realize their vision of this sort of connected zombie simulator, because it's my ideal game. It's my dream game. And when they showed that off, I was like really hyped and stuff. But now when I think about it, it's probably more like an 8. I'm with you. Like, it was like a great solid show, but there wasn't enough immediate stuff coming up. And at the same time, I kind of feel like with Sony, there's just coronavirus stuff going on, and games don't grow on trees. And also, another aspect to it is, back last year, we would have had third-party games with gameplay on the stage at E3. This year, we didn't have any third-party to shore up the thing because there was no E3. So, like, I think some of maybe the meat is kind of lost, because third party does make up a lot of what we play. It's something people often seem to forget. And I know there's a lot of third party games I'm looking forward to, like Watch Dogs Legion, the new Assassin's Creed, Cyberpunk, Star Wars Squadrons. Like, I want to play all of those on the Series X anyway. So those are the kind of games that they could have used to show the power of the Series X, but because of the way that they can't align timelines as easily as they could before all the crazy stuff going on in the world, it was a different show. But I think, like, given what was going on, I think it was an 8 out of 10 personally.
Yeah,
overall.
So Spitfire Spud, he gave us a super chat without saying anything. Thanks, buddy. And, man, a lot of people with a lot of different varying scores as they type in their stuff. Face, he wants to know, overall good show, not perfect, 7.5 for me. For Microsoft marketing and bragging about 12 T-flops, Halo Infinite didn't look good. Gameplay was cool, though. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Halo in depth here in just a little bit. Gamer by Choice says, I just lost that. Damn, look at all these 4s, 6s, 9s, 8s, 5s. Definitely a very diverse set of opinions going on here. Damn, I just lost where I was. No Ducks Given says the show had some issues, but you can't please everybody. Show is an easy 8 just for the diversity of titles to come. Sin Vendetta says, I'm just going to say that I know Undead Labs is in pre-production, but State of Decay 3 needs to have the look and tone of that trailer. It's funny, me and Jez were actually talking about that before we went live, and we'll continue that conversation as we keep on going. So I want to kind of start off with the pre-show, and then we'll get into the main show. Pre-show, Jazz, do you have any thoughts? Did you even watch the pre-show? Did you even watch the Jeff Keighley stuff?
I did. I didn't listen to what the people was the influencers.
Who cares? Who cares? Like, seriously, I sat there and I'm like, who gives a crap? Well, I say that and like I'm secure enough in my own opinion. Like, I don't care about what really anybody else thinks, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I don't care what Jacksepticeye says. Even though I do watch a lot of his videos, I don't care about what his opinion is about Xbox. And they had some other people there. I had no clue who they were. I do like Alana Pierce. I watch her stuff a lot of time. Shout out to her. She joined an Xbox podcast on Kinda Funny with Snowbike Mike and Gary Whitta, and they did their first episode, and I thought it was pretty good. I always like hearing Alana talk about Xbox. So she was like the only one that seemed to know what was going on with Xbox. All the other people were like either PC gamers or PlayStation guys, and just like, hey, what do you use Xbox for? What games do you like? And they're just like, I don't know, man. I just watched Netflix on it. It's like, really? You have this like show that Xbox hyped up and did in collab with you, and most of the people on there couldn't tell you anything about Xbox whatsoever. So in that regard, like, I hate, like, did they, I don't know, maybe they think people are going to tune in to hear what these people say, but they're only there for a couple minutes. It's like, you know what, just show me the games. And they've started off with Dragon Quest 11S, which I do not care about at all. I don't care about it at all. Like, who cares? Who cares about Dragon Quest? Who cares about Dragon Quest?
I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. Yeah. I knew you were going to slide Dragon Quest, and you're wrong.
No, I'm totally right.
You're a bad person.
Xbox was a better place without Dragon Quest on it.
Oh, what? Oh, God, you're such a horrible, terrible person. But I was actually thinking like they should have had Dragon Quest in the main show instead of Ori. Because even if you don't care about that, that's a huge get. That is like one franchise that's just never been on an Xbox platform. You know, it was a huge, you know, thing for such a storied franchise to make an appearance. So even if you don't care about it, I think that was a big deal.
I'm kidding. I'm glad Dragon Quest is here for the people that love it. I'm kidding. Some people think I'm serious when it comes to this stuff. I try to joke around, and people are calling us simps for Alana in the chat. Oh my.
Simp?
Yeah. A simp is a person who throws money at them. I just say I like watching her content. Doesn't mean I'm messaging her or tweeting her all the time or throwing her all the money in the world. Like, Jesus Christ, get a hold of yourselves, guys. See, people think I'm being serious. Look, I don't care about Dragon Quest, but I love that it's here for you guys that do. So
thank you, Rand.
Keep on playing it. God, I try to be a little controversial, a little joking around, and everybody just jumps down my throat. Anyways, Dragon Quest is there, which was a big announcement. I agree. Dragon Quest has always never been on Xbox, so it's pretty cool to see that it is coming, although I'm not going to play it. I don't care, and I will not play it for charity, Jez. So...
no, you're playing Pokemon Snap for charity.
No, I'm not. Let's see. Exo Mecha, which was very Transformer looking. Like the two Transformers fighting on a battlefield, which I thought was kind of interesting. I think that game's coming to Xbox. They had a new trailer for Watch Dogs Legion, and I just thought to myself, why? We just saw this at the Ubisoft Forward thing. Like, who cares about Watch Dogs Legion? And I almost think it was the same trailer they used before. It was just like, why is this here? Okay. Echo Generation, which I thought looked really cool. It's from the people that did. It's from the devs like Coco Cucumber or something like that, or Coco Cumber. I know
Coco Cucumber or something like that.
Something like that, but I don't know.
That game looks amazing.
It looked really cool. They made what game did they made recently that was on Game Pass that I played that I thought was fun, but I just don't remember. Riverbond. There you go. And it kind of looks like that, but more of a
horror.
Yeah. Hello Neighbor.
Horror tactics. I'm down for that.
Yeah. Hello Neighbor 2 was announced. Like, I tried playing Hello Neighbor 1, not for me, but it is like a big game. People seem to love it. A lot of Let's Plays about it, so that's coming. Then they had a nice ID at Xbox montage. And there are a lot of games I was very interested in this ID at Xbox montage. Tunic finally coming after all these years. Tunic, I think, is actually coming with the Series X. I think it's like day one or like close to the launch.
Are you sure?
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure.
I thought that was 2021.
No, if you look at the Xbox Wire article, they said 2020, and I'm pretty sure the creator said that like it's coming like around the launch of the console. So,
maybe I'm getting something mixed up with something else.
And like 12 minutes is finally coming, which seemed pretty sweet. Sable looked cool. I'm kind of just, those are the ones that kind of jumped out at me, but there's a lot of really cool indie games from ID at Xbox that are coming like first to console, and I believe also all on Game Pass, which is great because that was kind of the big winner for this whole showcase. It was not necessarily the pre-show, but for the whole showcase. It was just like all these games are on Game Pass, and I think that might have negatively impacted what they could have shown because they wanted it to be like everything you see is going to be on Game Pass. So they essentially couldn't show Assassin's Creed Valhalla again, or they couldn't show Cyberpunk 2077 or any other third-party games that aren't launching in Game Pass because they wouldn't be able to say, hey, everything's on Game Pass. So while it sells Game Pass incredibly, because there's a lot of content coming for a low monthly cost, you kind of lose out on the big third-party games that Sony had at their conference, like Resident Evil 8, or some of the Square Enix games, or you know what I'm saying? So yeah. It's kind of a plus and a minus for them. So I thought the pre-show was kind of a waste. I mean, they hyped it up a little bit. I did tune into it, but I felt like if I didn't watch it, I wouldn't have missed anything. Like most of it was just influencers and big YouTubers talking about how they don't know anything about Xbox. And it was just like, and I'm trying to think if Jeff did the same thing for a PlayStation, if they would have said the same thing, if those people would have been like, yeah, I only turn on my PlayStation a couple times a year, or, I don't really, like, I just...
I mean, like me saying that.
Yeah, or like me saying that. That's something, it's like, I turn on my PlayStation because the exclusives are so damn good. That's why I'm turning it on. But these guys are just like, nah, I'm just really PC, just playing it on my PlayStation and Xbox. What's that?
The thing is that honestly, they're going to struggle to find people who actually do.
I know
in that space that actually do main Xbox.
I mean, it's been a tough generation for Xbox. So I mean, like a lot of people, a lot of influencers have gravitated to PC or PlayStation because it was the dominant platform. There's still a common sentiment among gamers out there that Xbox is a joke, which is what Phil and company and their first party is trying to turn people around. So, it is what it is, and they're on the way to do it. It just takes a lot of time and good games to put out to change the narrative. JD Gamer says Sony's show wasn't better. Xbox Series X had more games, variety, and some launch dates, and a better showcase for SSD in the medium than Ratchet and Clank from PS5. The Series X, the showcase didn't have more games. The PlayStation had 26 games, so it didn't have more. Variety, you can kind of say. Sony had a lot of variety in the indie titles that they showed. Maybe not necessarily in the first party. Sony had, there was some dates for some of those games, and that is a question mark for Xbox. A lot of those games didn't. So we'll compare this one really quickly. The SSD tech between Ratchet and Clank and Medium. Do you think it was showcased better in Ratchet and Clank or in the Medium? Like, if you're just judging it from the game's showcase, I would say they demonstrated it better in Ratchet and Clank than Medium did.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the Medium looks great, and I'm going to buy it, and I really like everything about the way it looks, but it's also, mechanically, it's not going to have as many mechanics or as much dynamism as, a 3D platformer with all the destruction, the combat, and stuff like that. So I think Ratchet and Clank showed up way better than the Medium as a showcase title. Which is why I said Microsoft should have had a vertical slice of Hellblade 2 or something like that to show, or even a third-party game. If you're gonna do marketing deals with Cyberpunk and stuff like that, be like, this is why Cyberpunk plays best on the Xbox Series X. Even if they had 2 minutes to show side-by-side slice of Xbox Series X, how it boosts it up or whatever. But maybe they can do that in the platform showcase next month or something.
Yeah. We have over 1,600 people watching. Thank you very much, guys. I know a lot of people tuned in to hear me and Jess talk about this stuff and give their own opinions about it. So we appreciate everyone being here on a Friday. Sorry we couldn't do the show yesterday, but if you're here and you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button and share this out on social media because YouTube doesn't really do a good job sometimes. Thank you. Mariana Pampa says, gave it at least an 8. I got plenty of games, new games, variety. Game Pass is the winner. But I agree, for those people outside looking in, Xbox didn't give them a lot of reasons to buy Series X. And I would say that if you're probably entrenched in the Xbox platform, you're probably like, hey, I'm good. But if you're probably on the PlayStation 5 and you're like, okay, sell me on why I should buy Xbox or make the Switch, probably didn't do a good job of that. But I mean, as I mentioned, and I've been saying for, I don't know, a year now, Microsoft, they don't care what system you buy as long as you play. The games are on PC for a reason. They want you to play wherever you want to play. But yeah, I would say they didn't do a good job showcasing why you need a Series X. At least with both of these game showcases. Maybe they do a better job of that with whatever they do in August, because eventually they're going to have to announce Lockhart. And Gamer by Choice says, should have marketed show as an Xbox Game Pass show. So that was the pre-show.
That's what Xbox is now. People who it's an Xbox Game Pass show. That is what Xbox is now. That's what subsidizes the console price. That's what's paying for your games to be made. It is Xbox Game Pass. So
And DJ Bird Doss says, you got it backwards, Rand. The one guy said he uses Xbox for everything, including Netflix. He only uses for PS for exclusives. As for the rest of them, I don't know. Pretty sure Jacksepticeye said it the other way around, but I'll take your word for it. And Digital Source says, you have to include the games from Xbox May Show to actually judge the shows equally. Well, I mean, okay, maybe. Sure, there's games coming. I don't know, because we're gonna have a PlayStation show here in a couple weeks, and they're gonna show stuff that's new. And the rumors are that Microsoft held stuff back just in case. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what I mean, because Sony hasn't dated. Like, I'm a little frustrated here that we're in July, right? We're almost into August, and we don't know when the consoles are coming. You don't know what the prices of the consoles are. You don't even know if the cheaper next-gen Xbox thing is an actual thing, even though it seems like it's a thing, right? Pre-orders aren't up yet. Like, I kind of just flash back to 2013, and like everybody gave their price in June at E3. Now, I'm sure, maybe pre-orders weren't open. I don't remember 7 years ago very well, but like this back and forth and playing, chicken with each other has really gone on a long time. Like, there's that rumored state of play that Sony's putting on in August. Are they going to be dropping pre-orders in price then? Or are they just going to be like, here's a state of play, here's some new games, maybe some demos of Horizon Zero Dawn or something, and then not, and then wait for Xbox to announce Lockhart? Like, isn't it kind of a little frustrating a little bit here? Like, I mean, I'm not saying that I have the money set aside for both systems. But I'm not. I know, especially with like the way the world is and everybody out of a job, like these consoles are a heavy investment, but like a lot of people want to know how much they need to put aside or how much they need to save, and it just seems like we're getting really close to a point where these consoles are a couple months away and you can't pre-order them yet and you don't even know how much they cost. It's getting a little. I mean, it's good for me because I can make videos about it. But I'm just saying, as a regular person, as a gamer, it's kind of just getting a little frustrating between the two. It's like, what is going on here? Are both of you too afraid to say that your console's $500 and you neither want to be the first one to say that it's that expensive, or are you both literally looking for we're going to undercut? We're waiting for you to announce this so we can undercut you, and because of that, there's this perpetual standoff,
Oh, it's all fun and games until someone announces their pre-order dates.
Yeah.
But they're probably just also trying to see if they can cut last ditch efforts to bring the prices down, maybe too, because price is always crucial, right? But I don't know. When did they typically in the past they've done that at E3, right? Where they've just gone nuts and announced everything at E3.
Yeah.
So this is if they come out in November, this is going to be the longest time or the shortest time between a reveal of the price and the actual launch.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely. And you know what? After going through all this stuff and sitting through all these shows individually, I really miss E3 at this point. I thought it might be pretty cool for each one to have their own show. No, E3 is needed. And I kind of sit here and think how much different this would have all played out if Microsoft could have put on an hour and 40-minute show that they had been planning since the start. All the announcements, all the third-pass stuff, all the hardware, potentially price and everything at one show at a single time, instead of this piecemeal, month-by-month stuff. Because, even Ubisoft and EA's, they're, individually, they're not very good, but at least you could have had, one of their, trailers or gameplay demos at each one of these conferences. It just was not good whatsoever. And maybe that's because it was thrown together all last minute. The world kind of went to shit, and they kind of had to scramble to do these digital conferences and stuff like that. So I really, really, really miss E3. Let me know in chat. Do you agree with me? Do you miss E3 as much as I do? If you do, type a 1, and if you enjoy this digital format and prefer it over E3, hit a 9. 1 for missing E3, 9 for I like the digital format better. I really miss E3, Jez. I really do.
Yep, same. I actually thought oh, this would be nice. We can do all everything from home. It'd be comfortable. Blah 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 blah. But it's just been one long E3. I've been getting 150 emails a day about games, and before it'd be it'd be a nightmare 2 weeks of stress and hard work. But then it'd be now I can take a break. But this summer has just been so much stuff spread out and all over the place too. like
Yeah.
because you don't know which show to watch. It's like, is Summer Game Fest? What is that? Do I need to watch that for game announcements? When's Ubisoft show? When's EA show? And they're all over the place, and it's all chaos. And I want it back purely from a professional standpoint, but also just from a hype standpoint. Like, can you imagine if like, I don't know, Christmas was drawn out? Like, if you got one present over a whole month instead of all of one day, like, and like one day it was like, you get your new Xbox, and the next day you get like a toothbrush or something. Like, it's so yeah. Bring it back. Bring back E3, please. I've had enough of this.
Smoking crack and banging. Smoking crack says comparing PS4 and Xbox, they aren't in the same level. One is Game Pass, other is Game of the Year, X AAA games. Opinions, man, opinions. I mean, PlayStation puts out incredible games. I'll be the first one to admit it. I'm loving Ghost of Tsushima right now. King's Blood, what's up, man? How you doing? He says, salute, bro. The show is a 7 out of 10. Halo and lack of gameplay are the only downfalls. I agree. The lack of gameplay is pretty stark. But for me, it's probably like an 8. It was exactly what I thought. At least now you have games to look forward to. That's the only difference between the last couple of years. Is like now you know the games are being made. It's going to take a little time to get to them. Sin Vendetta, what's up, brother? He says, wasn't the Xbox One X as a price announced in August, and wasn't the PS4 Pros announced in September? Yes, the Xbox One X price was announced at the E3 2017. I can't speak. E3 2017. The pre-orders weren't announced until August. PS4 Pro wasn't announced until October, or right before October in September. They held that little thing where they announced the PS4 Slim and the PS4 Pro and the PSVR. So yes, there is that. But those are mid-gen consoles. This is like the new gen. Xbox The Spot says, with Microsoft having back-to-back lackluster shows, are they helping Sony's narrative about why Sony is making their games only on PS5? Does Microsoft need to stop talking and just show the games? I mean, I don't know if they're helping Sony's narrative. It's not like, I don't think Sony put on like a killer show. Like, I wasn't blown away from Sony's show. I kind of felt exactly the same as I felt after watching the Xbox show. I was just like, hey, it was pretty good. You know, it could have been a lot better. It could have been worse, at least from my perspective. But, I mean, Microsoft is playing from behind, so there is that. And Sony seems to have gamers and people's confidence where, like, you can show us whatever and we just assume it's going to be good. So Microsoft's playing kind of by different rules in that regard. JD Gamer says, rumor has it that both PlayStation and Series X are being upgraded after yields turned out to be way better than expected. Should Halo Infinite be delayed? Jez, you know anything about Series X or any of this stuff being upgraded?
No, that's wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking. Should Halo Infinite be delayed?
No.
I would say it depends on what the final product looks like, and then you can maybe make a case for it being delayed. Like, is the campaign finished? Is the multiplayer fully featured? Like, clearly, you know, Halo Infinite is a launch. Like, it is like the whole Series X and everything was designed to be the launch. And if they lose it, then that kind of loses a big thing. So I guess it really depends.
Normies don't care, man. It's just like,
I know.
It's just this whole people are upset because of the meme, and it makes them like feel like insulted when they see memes that bash their favorite game and stuff like that. Like, just have fun with it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, who cares if it's got the most photorealistic stuff? I mean, is it a fun game is more important to me.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I don't like Halo very much, so I don't really care how well it's going to look. Like, is it going to be fun and unique? Is it going to have new stuff? You know? And the multiplayer, my multiplayer game that I play is Overwatch, which looks like a Pixar game. Looks like it was made by Pixar. You know, it's not photorealistic at all. I think if you want cutting edge visuals, you need to look elsewhere. You know, it's 4K, 60 frames per second, open world multiplayer, and I kind of feel like
I'll take the 60 frames because that's not filmic. So,
but at the same time, I kind of feel like this was supposed to be the generation where compromises ended, and clearly to get to 60 frames, 4K, open world with that kind of draw distance, clearly they have traded off the frame rate, you know, because isn't it confirmed that Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is 30 frames per second?
I mean, well, at least whatever they showed in that trailer, yeah. But I mean, the same thing was about Spider-Man, and then they said that there was a performance mode for Spider-Man.
Okay.
So it's only you don't know. Like, yeah, sure, it is now, but then Gorilla could be like, there's also a performance mode. You know,
performance mode. Fair enough.
Yeah, Dirk Riggedy says, yes, I miss E3. These small shows had very little gameplay and has made the console war even worse. I'll be on Dirk Riggedy's Xbox show on Monday. Looking forward to talking to him and his panel about Xbox. It's going to be fun. Undisputed Nerd says, I might be in the minority, but I'm actually excited for Infinite. It's in its polished phase, so I'm sure it'll look much better, and the open world aspect has me excited. I think it'll look better than what was shown. I mean, we'll talk about Halo Infinite here just in a second. And shout out to Dizzy. He says, hey, yo, guys, stopping by to show some love. Stuck between a 7 and 8 myself. Didn't hate it or the showing, but left for more to be desired. It's kind of exactly how I feel about it.
It's funny because, like, what you said about Sony, Microsoft playing by different rules, it's like when Sony has a mediocre show, nobody cares, really, because they've got your confidence anyway. Like, you know, The Last of Us 2 is going to be good. You know what they're going to, you know, their output's going to be good because their studios have repeatedly proven themselves. Whereas Microsoft is Microsoft's on the back foot and is coming from a position of, we need to prove ourselves now. And ultimately, these game shows aren't being produced, you know, by Hollywood at the end of the day. It's the proof's going to be in the pudding at the end of the day. It's going to be like, is Halo actually fun? Is it a game that you're going to spend hundreds of hours in? Are you going to get lost in this game? Are your friends going to play it? You're going to have a load of fun with it? And, you know, presentation only gets you so far. Presentation's more about, like, console war stuff. It's like, are people going to insult me for choosing Xbox because of these memes? And, you know, if that's what you're basing your enjoyment of the console on, then fine. But I don't think that's, for me, that's not a good reason. That's not a good reason to base your console purchase on. Like, I wouldn't do that, you know, personally. But again, at the same time, I do think, you know, Halo didn't impress me from a visual standpoint or a gameplay standpoint, personally.
We got to talk about this in a minute, Jez. We really do. Eternal Shaddai says, now the question is E3 now irrelevant like people said before, or is it needed? I think it's needed after seeing the what's the word I'm looking for here? The alternative? After seeing the alternative, I think E3 is needed. And I think a lot of people would agree. Texo says 3 out of 10. Serves no purpose other than damage Infinite's reputation and confuse. No next gameplay shown whatsoever. See, I'm good with everybody's like varying reactions. If you hated the show, I get it. If you love the show, I get it. Like I'm cool with other people's reactions. I know a lot of people when I put my video or whatever, they always kind of be like, "That show was what do you mean, Rand?" I'm like, "Hey, whatever you feel is whatever you feel. I don't care. Like, it's fine. Like we all not gonna like everything, guys." So if you hated the show and thought it was garbage, then that's what it was to you. To a lot of other people, it wasn't. So to a lot of people, it was just in the middle. It was just kind of just, it was all right. Couch Gaming says the PlayStation fan base is by far the most toxic in gaming. I think all the fan bases in gaming have their own very, very toxic parts.
I saw a great meme the other day. It was like, the meme was Sony fans hate Xbox fans. No. It was Sony fans hate Microsoft. Microsoft fans hate Sony. And Nintendo fans hate Nintendo.
Yeah.
Because, like, did you see all the hate Nintendo got for its last Direct?
Well, it was like a mini Direct, but they got a lot of hate for it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Nintendo, I've never seen a company try to manage expectations like Nintendo did. They were like, this is a mini Direct for partner games. And everyone tried to spin it into like, oh yeah, Nintendo Direct, there's going to be Metroid Prime, there's going to be Master Chief in Smash Brothers and all this stuff. And then like, it was just like a bunch of games. I can't even remember what they are now. They were so uninteresting, but people went crazy, man. People went crazy over that stuff. So I think every fan base can be like pretty toxic at times.
White Knight says, you're lying to yourself with that comment, Rand. About what? About me not caring what other people think about the event and not affecting my own opinion about it? Trust me, I ain't lying about that, dude. I'm not losing sleep over people tweeting me or commenting me in my comment section about how I'm wrong about something that I rated it too high or rated it too low. Trust me, I don't give it a second thought, bro. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So, if you hated the show, more power to you. If you loved the show, more power to you. Doesn't really matter. Craig Jackson says, Rand, you said your reaction to Xbox show would be either anger or joy, yet it's kind of May. Where's the passion? Well, I'm not. Well, because it was exactly what I thought it would be. So, it would be joy if I probably saw gameplay from Avowed or Fable, if I actually knew something more than the minute trailers that they showed, or if Halo Infinite was more of a graphical showpiece than it was. And we're going to talk about Halo Infinite now because that is the big talking point a lot of people have is about Halo Infinite and how it showed off and the comments made after the show about being a living platform. Give me what you thought about Halo, since you don't like Halo very much, and I do. I do. So I love Halo, so I'll go second. You tell me what you think. I want to know what you think from someone who doesn't give two flying Fs about Halo. What you thought about that Infinite showing.
Well, I was kind of like, I have played like Halo 1, 2, and 3, and 4. I completed some of the older ones on Legendary with my brother, and it was kind of like a tradition. We'd always pick up Halo and play it together. But it was never a franchise that I was in love with. It wasn't like, Unreal Tournament 99, which I played to death. I grew up with those violent, old school shooters, and when I played Halo, it was just like with the blood, kind of thing. That was literally what I first thought when I played Halo. It's like playing Unreal Tournament with no blood, which I know is shallow, but I was like, come on, I was like 14 or something when that came out, or lower. Can't even remember how old I was, but in any case, I was hoping that they'd show me something that would make me love Halo. Or make me think, oh wow, I actually need that. Something new. Like, for example, I never really cared about God of War either, like the older games. But the new God of War looked amazing, and it was something new. It was something fresh. It was heavier, and it was the correct way to reboot a franchise or soft reboot, whatever you want to call it. But what I saw in Halo Infinite, as someone who doesn't really care about the franchise, and this is like, my opinion doesn't really matter because this game's for the fans ultimately, and that's where Microsoft is looking really, to fans and their feedback. But I looked at it and thought, there's literally nothing here that interests me, nothing that's new. It's still like the same, everything, grunts and elites and, those little dudes that run around, and those are the grunts, right? The elites and the brutes, that's what I meant. It was all the same stuff that I expected, and the same weapons, and yeah, there was a couple of new ones, but there's nothing that really blew my mind. Like for example, we got the grapple shot or whatever, but Doom Eternal's got a grapple shotgun which cuts people in half, and you can swing off the environment with it and do all kinds of cool stuff. And I just kind of felt like there was nothing in there that made me feel like I needed it, So, and that's without talking about the graphics. Visually, I thought, again, like most people, I thought it looked unimpressive. It was the first thing I thought, and I thought, if this is your flagship product for your next console, then, there's an issue there. But at the same time, I was thinking, well, it's going to launch on Steam. It's going to be a platform. It's going to be massive anyway. People play Fortnite and Overwatch, and they don't moan about the graphics not being photorealistic there. So I think like some of these stylistic choices are oriented around the kind of game it's going to be: open world, co-op, 60 frames per second, and all that stuff. So maybe there's some compromises made there. Maybe it'll look better at launch, which is something Aaron Greenberg insisted in an interview today. But I personally don't believe it will look much different from what we were given. There's things they can do to tweak it. Like, for example, they're going to add ray tracing post-launch. They can improve textures on some of the guns and stuff. And even between the two trailers, people noticed that the textures on the guns in one trailer look more detailed than they did in the other one. Yeah. And the lighting was improved in one trailer over the other. So there are some things they can do to improve it, but I think stylistically, it's not going to get an overhaul now, too late in the game. But that's how I thought. That's how I felt about Halo. And I know a lot of people are probably cringing at that, but I just never cared about it. It's kind of like, I don't know. It plays so. I grew up with, like I said, I grew up with Unreal Tournament and Quake and those kind of games, and Halo plays so differently to those, and I just could not really get into it, like even as a kid. And I did play it a fair amount, but yeah, it's still going to be fun to play. You know, I'm still going to play through it, the campaign and co-op, and blow stuff up with a tank, and use a shotgun. Hopefully, the Flood will be in it. Because the flood were like the closest thing you could get.
The flood will in it because there's that one structure on the box art, as well as I think they even showed it in the gameplay demo. It's called the Palace of Pain. It's where the Forerunners or whatever experimented on humans and the flood. So I'm assuming at some point you'll go there, and I would imagine the flood is probably something that shows up towards the end of the game that maybe leads into whatever they're talking about, a platform. But so we got a comment here from our buddy Smoking Crack, who says, a lot of damage control in here. You guys are the reason why I'm gaming on PS4 mostly. Bad games don't get a pass. So let me get this straight. Me and Jez are the reason why you game on PlayStation 4? Wow. That's you must be really smoking crack there, buddy, for that to be the case. A lot of people always assume damage control is just because someone has an opposite opinion about you. Bad games don't get a pass. We're not even talking about a game that has been played yet, so I don't even know what you're talking about. So
they say it's so triggered. Like it's so
be a nice little voiceless minion and either hit the like or dislike button and get the fuck out of here.
It's so sensitive when people get triggered because your opinion doesn't line up with theirs. Like the rest of this year, I'm probably going to be mostly playing World of Warcraft and playing Shadowlands.
I just love that. Like me and you are the reasons why people play on PlayStation. Like the fuck? What are you talking? What does that even mean? Get the fuck out of here. JD Gamer says the pilot in Halo Infinite model was improved from last year and I expect it to be better at launch, but my delay equation is based on no ray tracing. I mean, no ray tracing at launch. I mean, clearly they ran into probably a lot of issues with working from home that they couldn't fix. Snake Eye says, when is your guest coming on? RDX got Major, so Xbox 2 got Big Phil. Love you guys. #Filmic. Yeah, no interview for us with anybody. We're not big enough. We're not cool enough. I mean, nobody from Xbox hit me up about any interviews, so it is what it is. Me and Jazz are just gonna do the show. If anybody from Xbox wants to come on, I'm always open to talk about that sort of stuff. So yeah. So my take on Halo Infinite. Oh, man. So you guys all know. Well, we got a question from Sean Murray. Wait, Jez, what about the thing 343 said that was old build and it was back from February and they said they had time to work and fix it? That was the kind of info that came out, right? That the build was from January. So
yeah, I did see that.
So I mean, we'll see.
About that now or later?
We'll see. We'll see. We'll talk about this in a minute. So, Halo Infinite. You guys know Halo is my favorite franchise in all of gaming. Like, I have been waiting for this moment to see what this new Halo game would be. And I am not lying to you guys. When that first trailer started and they were building the Mjolnir armor, I had goosebumps on my arms. I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. Literally, I had goosebumps on my arms. I could hear the Halo music, and then later you find out Gareth Coker's composing it, and I know he's going to rock that soundtrack because Ori is amazing. So I was like, oh my god, here we go. And they jump right into the gameplay. It's really cool that it was just like, oh, press a button for a demo, and I'm thinking to myself, is that a demo that people are going to get to play? Could we get to play that? It'd be really cool if they let people actually play that. And Laquan says, how confident are you in the WB purchase? I doubt that's going to happen, man. Don't get that out of your mind. If it happens, great, but more than likely it's not. And then we went into the gameplay demo, and I really like the actual gameplay, because I can imagine myself doing a lot of what the person playing was doing, switching between weapons, taking out the enemies, using the grapple hook, using the equipment and stuff like that. It all looked like fun, but then I'm a huge Halo fan, so I understand that people watching who aren't, like yourself and many other people who are like, I don't care about Halo, whatever they showed, especially from the gameplay-wise, since it really wasn't, it wasn't like Evolved, was like, well, this isn't really anything different. So I'm watching it and I'm like, this is what I want. And like, yeah, I mean, sprint and great. You know, the grapple looks pretty cool. Like you can grapple enemies, you can grapple things like containers, and then throw them. It opens up a lot of combat scenarios that you previously weren't able to do in the games. And it looked really fluid at 60 frames. However, the drawback, because of it, or because of how early the build was, or whatever the reasons was, is that the actual graphical fidelity of the game was not very good. Like you could tell, yeah, like the draw distance was really cool to see, but there was a lot of it in the distance was not detailed. The trees looked bad in some shots. Obviously, you have like the enemies with Craig the Brute that's been memed to death now. A lot of the textures on certain things, weren't right. There was popping, especially when you're going up the elevator that you can see, which maybe explains if they're running on PC why they weren't using the velocity architecture and all that stuff, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, it seemed like this game was an Xbox One game at its core, which it is. I mean, it is a cross-gen game, and it seemed like this was an Xbox One game at its core that is just kind of being Xbox Series X enhanced. And then at the end with the Brute, the facial animation kind of didn't look very good. But this is the kind of thing when you show games in an early state. Although, would you say like, hey, we're showing this game off in July and the game's coming out in November? Is it really that much early? But when you do like a lengthy gameplay demo, people will always look for the flaws in everything. And the flaws get magnified. And this is why a lot of the developers, a lot of publishers, they don't do a lot of these gameplay demos anymore, because that's one of the things I've been very vocal about to Phil and others. Like, I don't really get excited off of CGI trailers and really quick cut gameplay stuff, especially one after the other. It doesn't really excite me, and I'm like, where are the demos? And the answer is always like demos, we can't really do those, blah 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 blah. And I understand why, because every time, like, people picked apart the Gran Turismo 7 demo and showed off how the lights were popping in the background, right? And how people have like Halo Infinite's a meme now. It's a freaking meme on the internet. Nobody's really talking. I mean, people talk about the showcase about the varying degrees of whether you liked it or whether it was bad. But the discussion around Halo Infinite is literally, it's a meme because look at this Brute. And it's funny. It's funny. And kudos to 343 for embracing the meme, because it is hilarious, and they named the guy. But I would imagine that's not the reaction that Microsoft was looking for when they're showing off Halo Infinite for the first time, and the response to the internet is, it's a joke, right? That couldn't have been exactly what they were going for, right, Jez?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, obviously. You know what it reminded me of? I don't know if you ever saw Dragon Age 2 memes. Because when Dragon Age 2 was announced, there was like, they showed like some NPCs, like the main characters were like quite detailed, but the NPCs had like basically JPEG faces, and and that it reminded me of that, because there were memes about that back in the day. But it's like you die if you do, you die if you don't. If they showed like a cinematic trailer that presented it in a more sexy way, they would have been slammed for it. If they upfront about it, they get slammed for it. Everything gets picked apart, and it's the same on both sides. Remember Puddlegate with the Spider-Man? So the whole Puddlegate thing, and this is what it is. Yeah. I just want to know how it plays. How does it feel? What does the multiplayer look like?
Yeah,
is it going to have 4-player co-op or 2-player co-op?
Well, I think it definitely has 4-player co-op. I thought they confirmed it today. But Master Diatoni says, some money for keeping it a buck about fanboys on both sides. Get it? I'm a fanboys, ridiculous fanboys on both. And like even Nintendo ones, like they're all freaking ridiculous. I hate when they show up in here and they say stupid nonsense. Like, so-and-so said this about the game, or so-and-so thinks this about the conference. I don't care what so-and-so thinks about anything. I don't care about what people who don't play video games and spend most of their time fucking crying on the internet think about anything. Shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ. Starload14 says, I think the 10-year plan is welcomed. Expansions will feed Halo. Xbox One support will drop. Split-safe engine is scalable. I welcome one feed the title over frequent sequels that break up the multiplayer lobbies. Like, seriously, people send me shit all the time. Well, so-and-so said this. I'm like, I don't care what fucking people... Jesus Christ. Fucking bunch of sheep out there. Fucking ridiculous. Think for your fucking self. Anyways, so the Halo Infinite stuff, Brad Sams came out today and said that multiplayer wasn't going to be there, Jez. And then 343 immediately shot that down. What's going on with that?
Well, it is what it is. Brad Sams said on Reset Era that... Was it on Reset Era? I think he said that?
I think so, yeah.
I think Brad Sams said somewhere that he'd heard from a single source that Halo Infinite might ship without its multiplayer, like the multiplayer was delayed. And 343 came back and shot that down straight away. You know, they were like, that's not true, there's nothing to see here, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, this is why, like, when it comes to things that I know are going to be picked up by fanboys and, you know, torn apart, I always try and make sure that I have as many sources as possible, or I'm absolutely sure about it. Because you can't even mention things off the cuff. Like, I've heard from a source that something's going to happen, because if it ties into the fanboy war, everyone's going to freak out and cry about it. You know, like, I hear little things all the time. You know, like, I don't know, like before when I said I'd heard that Sony had trouble with the thermals on the PlayStation 5. You know, I'd heard that, and I just said it off the cuff. You know, I genuinely heard that. And from a couple of devs who were working with the system, and people freaked out. They lost their minds, you know. And so, like, I learned the hard way, and Brad too's learning the hard way, that you can't even talk about what you've heard because the discourse is so toxic. Mm-hmm. So I think Brad wasn't trying to be malicious. He just genuinely heard that that was something that was possible, that could happen. And, you know, you have to be careful with some of this stuff because people get really upset and people use it as... People weaponize off-the-cuff comments like that, you know? So, it's not Brad's fault, but luckily it sounds like it was wrong and that they are going to launch...
Yeah, if multiplayer wasn't going to be there at launch, I'm going to agree with Gaming Addict and what he just said in the Super Chat. Halo Infinite needs to be delayed. Besides that, great show. Yeah, if the multiplayer is not going to be... If that was true, which 343 said it wasn't, then yeah, it needed to be delayed. 100%. You can't launch that with a campaign and no multiplayer, and you can't launch it with multiplayer, no campaign or whatever. It needs to be the full product. And there'd be... I would if that was the case, if they somehow launch it with one or without the other, I will be on them like hard because that's bullshit. You should just delay it. No Ducks Given says, get him ran with Jez in the background, grinning mischievously. Some people say it's tough being an Xbox fan. No, I mean, I'm perfectly fine being an Xbox fan, and there's plenty of games here I'm looking forward to, and I got a PlayStation to play everything from there too. I got plenty of games that I'll be playing. I get sent stuff all the time from other people about what other people think about something, and I just don't care what other people think about anything. So why would I care what so-and-so thinks about the show? I don't care. I don't know why people keep on sending me that shit. And, you know, Twitter's whatever. Like, I get on there, I interact with people that are nice. Most people that tweet me aren't even really, they're cool. So I don't really get a lot of shit. But it is, I don't know, people like to spread drama across everything. So it's just very weird. Super Panda says, every game seen for this fall are years away. Where's 2021? They did say they're exciting working from Global Publishing, maybe holding stuff for later in the year. Commander Shepard said, based on what I saw during the Xbox showcase, did it not convince me to get a Series X while I still on my Xbox One. They gotta do better if they're capable of that. I do agree. Me and Jez both said this definitely wasn't a very good showcase. If the intent was to sell people on Series X, because they didn't do a good job of that. And what do you think about the console launch exclusives lineup? Well, we don't even really know what the launch lineup really is. For the most part, other than like Halo and maybe the Medium, and we don't know what it is on the PlayStation side, so it's like really difficult to get a comparison. So, I mean, I'll be playing Halo a lot. So, what do you think about Halo being a platform from now on, Jazz? No more numbered Halos from this point going forward. It's probably going to be the only Halo for next gen. Maybe a new one for Xbox Series XX or whatever. Like, my only concern with, I think, like, living platforms or games as a service, they do well for multiplayer. Like, you just look at all the most popular games right now on any console, they're all games as a service living platform. Rainbow Six Siege, Overwatch, Fortnite, Apex Legends. They do a good Call of Duty. They do a great job of basically keeping their user base engaged because they're constantly changing things, constantly adding things, making things better. So if they can do that for Halo, which is something they tried doing for 5, but didn't really do a good job of it and stopped after a while, but if they can continuously do that for a long time, then, and if my prediction of Halo Infinite's multiplayer being free to play, I think Halo Infinite will be, well, plus it's got to be actually good. Like, there's that to factor into it. Then people will play Halo Infinite for a long time. My only concern about the platform thing is, where does that leave the campaign? Are we going to get a story that has a beginning, middle, and end? Like a true, complete story? Or are we just going to get, hey, I'm sitting down, got my Series X day one, plugging in Halo Infinite, and I just get part 1 of a story? And at the end, it says, continue Master Chief's journey in part 2 in 5 months or whatever. And they do kind of what Destiny does, where like every year there's an expansion and some of it's multiplayer and some of it's a campaign. Like, my thing is, like, I need a complete campaign. I need a lengthy, complete campaign. So that's my concern. Like, I just, like, it better not be where it's like, well, it's part 1. And right when you're about to get to the good stuff, it's like, boom, it's over. This is all we could ship. And then see us again in 8 months for the next part of it. That's my only concern about the living platform stuff.
Yeah, I think, like, they've obviously looked at Destiny as a primary example about how they should build out this game, I think. I don't think we can deny that at this point. But for me, Destiny never gripped me with its story. And I was never interested enough to stick with it for long periods of time because of exactly what you said. Like, wait, 10 million months for the next part. The fact that Halo Infinite has a codex in its menu screen and stuff says to me that there is going to be a big emphasis on story, and they have hired like major writers in recent months and years. So, like, I don't think it's going to be a case of like there won't be a good campaign, and they have gone on record to say it's bigger. The campaign's bigger than 4 and 5 combined, although that could be interpreted in a number of ways, I guess, if you want to drill down into it. But I think like this will either be amazing or it'll be a total fail. I think it'll be like, telling a story in an open world ain't easy. You can't control the pacing, you can't control cinematic moments as easily. You can't predict where the player's going to move. You have to funnel them through artificial, areas and gaps. Like, I remember, like, Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain, for example. Like, Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain is one of the highest review scores in gaming, but that game was a solid 7 out of 10 for me. I thought, like, the story was disjointed, and it was weird and messy, and it didn't work anywhere near as well as sort of wide linear version like Metal Gear Solid 3. And I don't think Phantom Pain's transition to open world worked very well at all. And I even prefer like the first Batman game in terms of its cinematic progression. Even though like Arkham Knight had an amazing story and some great story beats, I do genuinely believe that it worked better as a more of a linear, almost Metroidvania sort of format than its open world format. So it could be great, it could be bad, and I guess it's on Microsoft to prove that it'll actually work, because I share the same concern for Halo fans.
Well, Chris in Super Chat says the studio had released a blog after the reveal that said Infinite has a complete story, beginning, middle, and end. All right, well, that's good. So we'll just have to wait and see what that beginning, middle, and end is when we play the game at the end of the year. Hassan says, great show as usual, guys. Got a question. Why is Microsoft Xbox so reluctant to show new games running on Series X? It's always similar PC spec demos. Well, wasn't like they sent out the dev kits a little bit later than normal, and they only were able to like start certifying games in what, like June, was it, right, Jez? And yeah,
it's there are some things I've heard about Xbox's development status which concern me a bit. Like, for example, I've heard that it's weird because Microsoft is moving to a new architecture called Game Core, which you might have heard us talk about before. And Game Core is kind of like, not ready from what I understand. Like it's currently in beta. So there's a couple of indie games on launching into GameCore, which won't work on Xbox One. So I think like some games are delayed purely on the basis of the fact that they're targeting GameCore, and they haven't been able to target GameCore until recently when it, became more of a fleshed out toolkit. I honestly don't understand the technical details of that stuff. It's super complicated and all that. And I ain't a dev, and I don't even want to claim to be a dev and understand the full nuances about what goes in to those timelines and what it looks like. But at the same time, I do wonder how that might have impacted games like basically all the games that are coming exclusively to Xbox Series X, like State of Decay, like Forza, and is it Everwild exclusive to Xbox Series X?
Yes.
I think it is.
Yes. Yes.
I do wonder, like, how much of those games have they actually been able to develop without having access to GameCore? So I do wonder if that is been a factor in all of this. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. It's pure speculation. But Halo Infinite's not built on GameCore. It's built on ERA, the old architecture, which is why it's coming to Xbox One. And again, that kind of, that confuses things too. But the way someone's described Halo Infinite to me is that it's like Master Chief Collection 2. Like, Halo Infinite 2 will just appear in the menu, when it's done. It's like the Halo Infinite is like the Master Chief Collection in that it just ties together the stories that make Halo Infinite infinite, And even if like Halo Infinite Part 1 or whatever has like a beginning, middle, and end, it's not going to be the end of the story, because Halo's never going to end, is it? Because it's Microsoft's biggest franchise. But the multiplayer component will sit as a sort of unified set of playlists, similarly to the Master Chief Collection. Like you can jump into Halo 2 and Halo 3 and Halo 1, Combat Evolved, and all the different Halo multiplayers from a single menu, as far as I understand. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
I think it is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of going to be similar to that. Like it's Master Chief Collection 2. As in its platform format. It's on Microsoft to prove that it works, because nobody's really... Master Chief Collection is the only game that really has tried to do something like that. Overwatch 2 is kind of trying to do something like that, whereas people who are playing Overwatch 1 will share a server with people who are playing Overwatch 2, and they share the same pool of multiplayer stuff. But like if you're playing Overwatch 2, you'll have access to new heroes and the campaign mode. It's all weird. It's kind of like the way that map packs have gone away. Like, because all developers have realized that if they sell map packs, they're fragmenting the community. Like in Battlefield, in the old Battlefield Premium stuff. If you had Battlefield Premium, you had access to extra maps, and if you didn't have access to extra maps. So it'd split the community in half, and then split the community in half again. And there'd be some playlists that were just dead because nobody bought them.
Right.
Like the first Battlefront was like that. First Battlefront, there were some maps that you just couldn't play, even if you owned the DLC, because the community was split apart and fragmented. But Halo Infinite won't be like that. It's just be infinite. Whether that's a better way of doing it, whether that'll lead to better quality, I have no idea. But it's just the thing, it's the way things are going, the way things have been gone for a while.
Yeah. Gallo Gonzalez says, "Hey, the show was hyped and I was expecting more, and I know Microsoft can do better, but I still really enjoyed and liked the show." It's kind of how I feel for the most part, but
that's the level-headed way to look at it.
Yeah. V Sim says, "I hope that game platforms like Halo Infinite will give a platform for content and giving less crunch on developers. Sustainable game dev for the win." Yeah, crunch. I wonder how bad they're going to be crunching to get this game out. But yeah. So the Halo Infinite stuff, lot there to talk about. I can't wait to actually learn more about the multiplayer. I'm a big multiplayer fan for Halo. Like, you guys have heard me talk about how Halo 2, I spent a year playing it every single day, multiplayer, lost a job over it. thousands upon thousands of hours in it. Halo 3, very similar. Halo Reach, I put a ton of time into. Didn't really care for Forza multiplayer. Played probably well over 200 hours of Halo 5 multiplayer. So, like, I'm one of those people that loves Halo for both. I love the campaign because I love the character. I love the world. I love the gameplay. But, like, I also am going to play the multiplayer a lot. So I want to learn more. Like, is it going to be 4v4 arena? What are the playlists? Are the equipment going to be used in it? You're going to have big team battle? What are your plans? You're going to add maybe a battle royale mode eventually? Like, I kind of want to know what their roadmap is for Halo Infinite and the multiplayer stuff. But the next game that they talked about, which was probably the biggest surprise, I would imagine. Well, maybe the biggest surprise, but State of Decay 3, which looked incredible. Unfortunately, I think it was a CG trailer, or at least I doubt it was in-game because they said after the show that it was in early pre-production. But if that game can look like anything like that trailer, then wow. Because State of Decay 1 and State of Decay 2, not exactly the best looking games. I don't expect State of Decay 3 to look like that. And I do wonder if Microsoft is maybe setting the wrong expectations for what State of Decay is going to look like. Because that is a very, very, very good looking trailer. Hopefully they can get to that point. When they say early pre-production, I'm thinking State of Decay 3. Well, State of Decay 2 came out in 2018. I'm thinking what? State of Decay 3, 2022 or 2023 at this point, depending on how big the game is.
2022.
You think 2022?
I think so. It's like, man, I do agree with you that they're setting the wrong expectations.
Only if they can't get that level. Like, if they can, then they didn't. But that's what people are now going to be expecting for State of Decay 3. So
I can't see it, though, because there's still only 100 people at that studio. So can they really do that?
I mean, I don't think Bend's studio did Days Gone was that many. I mean, someone might correct me in chat. I think Bend was around 100, and they worked on their Days Gone game for 5 years, I think. I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I heard that, but maybe I'm wrong. But I mean, you give enough. I mean, it's always comes down to budget, which is manpower and stuff and time. I hope it looks something like that because to me it needs to be a significant step up from State of Decay 2.
Oh yeah, definitely
a huge thing. And then
I think like they could maybe bring, because we talk about like employee numbers being a factor, but they could potentially bring in contractors to do art and stuff like that. So maybe it's not indicative maybe it's not a good indicator these days and of how many people actually full time at the studio versus what the graphical output can look like. I mean, look at Hellblade, for example. Hellblade looked pretty tremendous back when it came out. But it's not just art, it's animations, man. State of Decay 2 had such janky animations when you're like doing anything like jumping or running or melee attacking, like, and so many bugs, cars flying into the air and stuff like that. State of Decay is always this game that had like this amazing special simulation stuff that I really love, and then all this jank holding it back. So if it can ditch the jank and become like serious business, I will be over the moon.
Yeah, because you love that game. You love that franchise.
I do love that game. Yeah. I love that franchise.
And Kratopsy says that Wikipedia says Bend Studios is about 133 people. So, yeah, we'll see. Phil took the stage, and I got to give props. They definitely listened from the May showcase. This is one of the things I will say. Like, I love the presentation of the show. I love the look of the show. It was really quick. I really dug how they kind of went to a world map and then, gave the location and kind of zoomed into it. And you had like a studio head talking about the game really quickly before showing that. Like, I would give that presentation, like the how they filmed it and the cameras and all that stuff, like that stuff is like A+. I think they completely knocked it out of the park in that regard. It was definitely a big turnaround from $1 webcams that they were using previously. And Phil said all the games here at the show are going to be on Game Pass. This definitely was very much a selling point. Like, hey, we're saying Game Pass is the future of Xbox, which me and Jez keep on talking about. And then they talked about Turn 10 and Forza Motorsport. No Forza Motorsport 8. He said it was in early production, and a lot of people thought, Forza would come at launch of Series X. Clearly it's not, and I had predicted it would be like a spring release, but that doesn't even look right if it's early pre-production or early production. So what are we looking at here for Forza Motorsport, Jez? And what does it mean where it's just Forza Motorsport? Is it a reboot? Is it going to be a platform where it's like this is the Forza Motorsport for the next few years, just like kind of this is the next Halo game for the next few years, and they just kind of update Forza Motorsport over time? Like, what do you think's going on with that?
God, I have no clue, man. Like, some of the stuff that I'd heard about Forza being like... Some of the stuff that I heard about Forza just turned out not to be true, as things seem to just... That's how it seems to go these days. So I now have no idea what they're going to be doing with Forza Motorsport. I mean, I'm not a huge racing guy, so I don't know like what they can do, but they talked. I'm sure they talked about like new, physics for the tires and stuff like that. And there's a lot of aspects they can improve on, like cinematic campaign or stuff like that. But again, we come back to this whole games as a platform thing, this is what Microsoft's all about now. It's Microsoft has put Sony to one side. They're not trying to be Sony. They're trying to be Tencent. They're looking at games like League of Legends. They're looking at games like Valorant. They're looking at games like, Fortnite and Minecraft and all these games that, can really engage people over time. And Forza is pretty much almost there with Horizon. Horizon had a platform component to it, but how do you extend that even further, and how do you bring that to Motorsport, which is more of a simulator type game? It's interesting to think about, because you can't really have an open world Forza Motorsport because it's a track racer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you do that? It's interesting to think about. But
yeah,
I have no idea.
Well,
man.
the thing is, like, if that game's 2022, what does that mean for Forza Horizon 5? I mean, right? I would imagine you can't launch two Forzas in the same calendar year. I'm just very curious what they do with these Forza games. I'm glad Turn 10's getting the time they need to, whatever, retool the game or refocus the game, because this is the 8th one, and it definitely is starting to feel like most people will be like, same thing with Forza Horizon. It's like, yeah, this game's need to do something different, so you give them the time to be able to do it. I'm just kind of curious to see, when it's coming out. But the trailer did look really good. Commander Shepard says, one thing I'll say about the Xbox Showcase, it was so much better than the E3 Online event that I've already forgotten about. That's how bad it was. And then Everwild, Rare showed up with the trailer for Everwild, which was incredibly gorgeous. Like, that trailer is so good. And you know what? I did go, like, I don't know if this showed off very well. I watched this on Twitch. And for the most part, the Twitch, stream was great. But man, I rewatched a lot of these trailers in 4K on my OLED, and holy cow, like, Halo looks a lot better in 4K 60, but you can definitely still see some of the imperfections that were noticed. But a lot of these trailers just look ridiculous. Like, especially the Everwild one, it looks so good. But the problem with Everwild is, like, they're out here saying they don't even know what the game is at this point, that they're still testing out stuff. And watching that trailer, I'm still just left with, what is the game? What do you do in Everwild? Like, what is the gameplay loop? So while I'm very interested in it because of how it looks, like, I really like that art style, right? I think it legit looks beautiful. It's
like 3D Ori, isn't it?
It's like, I'm just very curious to see, like, what is the game, right? This is what I want to know. And it's another one of those where, as the trailer ended, it was like Xbox Series X and PC, and it made it seem like, okay, so a lot of these games, I think there were 9 of the games here, were only at the end of the trailer Xbox Series X and Xbox and Windows 10, which led a lot of people to question, like, well, wait a minute, Phil Spencer said that they're not going to force people to upgrade to next gen, at least right away, and that a lot of their first party were going to be cross-gen for a bit, but if you take what these trailers say at face value, and I know Aaron Greenberg tweeted out that, their first party decides, if a lot of these games seem like they're only coming to Series X, maybe imply that a lot of these games are 2022 and beyond, because that's when I always kind of assumed Microsoft was going to cut first-party support for Xbox One at the end of 2021, and being like, if you want to play these games natively, you're going to have to get a Series X, because I would imagine at that point xCloud will be on the Xbox One consoles, so you can still stream those games to your systems. But it definitely seems like a lot of these games are only going to be made for Series X at some point, which, you know, the messaging for Xbox is always kind of a little bit weird when it comes to this stuff. You know, like, what are you going to do? And then this next stretch here is exactly what I didn't want them to do in the show. And trailer for Tell Me Why, which comes out August 27th, a trailer for Ori's patch, an Outer Worlds DLC, Grounded, which I'll give them this. That Grounded trailer was amazing. Like, they did not take themselves seriously. They're like, hey, if you want to play the biggest game of the year, play Cyberpunk, not our game. Which is just, it's that kind of like made me smile, and I'm like, okay, they get it, right? And you know, I'll give them a little pass on including both of those, because it led to the announcement, probably the one that is getting the most attention online. Like, nobody really has a bad word to say about it, and that is Obsidian's Skyrim RPG, essentially, Avowed. What did you think about Avowed, Jez?
Well, again, cinematic trailer, so we don't have a clue, but there are some hints about it. It seems to have a darker tone, maybe, than Skyrim did. Like, very sort of, almost like Lord of the Ringsy, with the, you know, old school skeletons in armor, and very dark, and caves and fire and stuff like that. I got like Lord of the Rings vibes from it. Right. And then, like, at the very end, it was like blatantly a call to Skyrim, when they had the sword in one hand, the spell in the other. It was like, yeah, okay, that's Skyrim. You know, they knew what they were doing. They knew it was about making people think of Skyrim. Basically, they knew exactly what they were doing, and that's been the rumor for ages, is that they were making something to take on Skyrim. One thing we weren't sure about, though, between the two of us, was this game going to be a new IP or set in Pillars of Eternity universe? And apparently, yeah, it is set in the Pillars of Eternity.
I said in my prediction video that it was Skyrim-like game set in the Pillars universe, like a spin-off.
So, your prediction, prediction,
yes.
quote unquote.
Yes.
You predicted that.
Yes, because I've heard about that game for over a year now. Like,
but you said before that you didn't think it would be.
No. I said before that I was hoping, I didn't know if they would call it Pillars, and they're not. Oh. It's Avowed, but it's still set in the Pillars universe. They're just smartly not tying. They're just smartly, the naming convention has nothing to do with Pillars, because most people out there don't number one, don't even know what Pillars is, right? So they're just kind of like, okay, we're gonna keep it separate. But yeah, I mean, like a year ago, I had heard from very good, reliable sources that it was their Skyrim game, and it was in the Pillars universe, which is like, okay. Now, did I know it was at the show? I mean, I knew it was at the show, but I didn't know it was at the show until Thursday, or until Wednesday, the day before.
What you're telling me is that you're an insider.
No, I'm not. I refuse. No, because I'm not.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, because it's like you hear stuff, but sometimes stuff doesn't turn out to be true. I mean, I don't know. Either way, that's what the game ended up being, Avowed. Then they had a game, As Dusk Falls, from Xbox Global Publishing, which had a very interesting kind of like comic booky, like still frame imagery. So I have to wait to see more about that. And then we had my biggest disappointment of the entire show. I was crushed when this happened, Jez, when they showed off Hellblade 2. And they didn't show anything new. I was crushed. I was sitting there, I'm like, oh, yes. And they were just like, hey, guys, remember when we announced Hellblade 2 at the VGAs? Yeah, that was cool. Hey, you remember when, you know, we're in Iceland now.
Yes, I like that.
And we took some pictures. Yeah. Well, later, guys. It's like what?
Did you watch the documentary?
Not yet, no. Is there any good stuff in it?
there are some details in it, kind of, sort of, maybe. They talk about how they're using the Microsoft Flight Simulator technology and Bing to laser scan Iceland into the game.
That's
which
cool.
says to me that the game's probably going to be quite a bit bigger than the original.
I would imagine
you don't have to scan the entire island of Iceland unless you're going to make a big game. So I think like there's some hints there. And I am proud of myself, Rand, because do you remember I did a trailer analysis of Hellblade 2 back in the day?
I did remember, yes.
And I was like, that is Iceland in my trailer analysis, the volcano and all that stuff. So I'm proud of myself. But yeah, I'm disappointed that there was no gameplay, because that is the game that I want to see rise to meet God of War, basically.
I wonder... Well, yeah, that I see. Here's the thing: a lot of people want it to be the first game. Here's the thing: I don't think you're going to have the puzzles of the first game. Senua's like leading a group. I don't think she'll have those puzzles, because I think that was
puzzles, but I don't think it'll be the emphasis.
Well, I don't think the puzzle will be in the game, period, because I think she's overcome, or at least made peace with her psychosis, which was a big part of like the puzzle solving stuff, right? And so because of that, I don't think that aspect of the game will be in it. And my wish is they flesh out the combat a lot more. Obviously I want it to be a narrative-driven game, because that's what Hellblade is. I mean, I would kind of have to see if they would do it a true open world. Like, I don't want a true open world for that game, but I wouldn't be upset if it was like wide linear, essentially. But either way, like, I'm dying to learn more about that game, and I wish it was there. And it almost felt like, to me, like something was missing from the show, and they need, like, okay, we pulled something, we don't have enough stuff. Get Ninja Theory on the horn to give a little quick update about Hellblade. But there's like, but we're not ready to show anything about the game yet, because maybe you know they haven't been doing any mocap because of COVID or any of that stuff, right? So nothing was really ready, and they weren't planning on it, and it was just kind of just like, I don't know, maybe it's on me for getting like seeing, okay, here's Hellblade, yes, we're gonna see something, and then we didn't, because it was the only thing that we didn't see. Like, out of everything here that they showed up, it was like the one thing where it was just like, we didn't learn anything, and it's like, well, would it have been better served if they just pulled it from the show and not have it there? But then people would be like, well, why wasn't Hellblade there? I don't know. Like, you're in a pickle in that regard. I'm just saying, for me, that was like the biggest disappointment of the whole show, was that you didn't see a new trailer at all for it. Maybe like I really wanted to see some brief gameplay. I really wanted to see a lot of gameplay at this thing. Like, between the Xbox and PlayStation show, there wasn't really much gameplay whatsoever, and these consoles come out in 4 months. So yep. Donovan Leffer say, I wish there was Hellblade gameplay, but I stopped expecting it back when they first said it's Unreal Engine 5. Didn't say UE5. Didn't Epic say UE5 games are a year or two away? Well, I think they said the engine was... When did they say UE5 was coming? Was it 2021, Jez? Or was it 2022?
I can't remember.
I only know it's like partners get it early. Like, I'm not expecting Hellblade until 2022. That's the thing about the show, is that a lot of these games here are far away. Halo Infinite and a lot is day one, but everything else is essentially 2022 and beyond. I mean, Everwild maybe is 2021, but the fact that they're still talking about like they're testing out gameplay ideas leads me to believe like they're probably not close. I mean, Hellblade 2, I don't see it coming in 2021. Avowed, I clearly don't see coming in 2021. Forza Motorsport, I guess, is a possibility, but with the way they talk about that game, I'm not really sure. So it seems like next year, 2021, might be a tad bit dry, unless they held off on some announcements and they're going to showcase some things a little bit later, or maybe they made some deals, like getting the medium and stuff like that. I don't know. Only time will tell. Psychonauts 2 showed up, and that game got delayed to 2021, by the way, after the showcase.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That game got delayed. It was a nice little trailer. I like Jack Black singing the song. That was cool.
Man, I was like, when I saw Jack Black, I was like, oh my god, they're doing Brutal Legend.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, oh, wait a minute, are they doing Brutal Legend? That'd be great, but no, it wasn't. And then, maybe the biggest WTF moment in the show, Bungie And Destiny 2 had a prime, segment in this talking about how the game's coming to Game Pass, all the expansions are coming to Game Pass, even the new expansion is coming to Game Pass day one. And I honestly thought when she started talking about that, I honestly thought they were about to say that they had acquired Bungie. That Bungie was back with Xbox. Like, I thought it was like they are like Bungie. Like ever since Bungie and Activision split, it really seems like Bungie is getting really cozy with Microsoft again.
It does seem like that, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, did that seem like Destiny 2? Did that seem just like that whole kind of thing? I mean, I get why Destiny 2 is a big game. Offering the expansions and Game Pass is a huge thing because normally, like, you'd put your game in a subscription service and you'd have the DLC to buy. But this is like, no, everything's in Game Pass. So it like kind of removes the barrier to kind of get into Destiny, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I thought that was a very, very weird thing. But I mean, it's a big thing for that. Stalker 2, I don't know much about Stalker, Jez. Do you know much about Stalker? If so, explain it to me.
Stalker is kind of the spiritual predecessor to Metro. A lot of the Metro developers have worked on Stalker back in the day. It's kind of like an open world survival shooter, not crafting, not eating and stuff like that, but like it's kind of like oriented around survival in Chernobyl. There's anomalies everywhere, floating, wormholes and weird mutants, and it's a horror game basically, like a survival horror game. A lot of modern games like DayZ and Escape from Tarkov especially, they owe something to Stalker. Like Stalker had like a lot of jank and it was very buggy and it was notorious for causing blue screens of death and stuff like that. Like the community had to actually fix Stalker for the devs because it was so broken. And if you buy the game on GOG.com, like it comes with the community patches pre-installed. And but it had really tight shooting. It was super atmospheric. It was really cool at the time. It's like a shooter RPG, basically. You're scavenging gear, getting upgrades, customizing your weapons, accessories, and stuff like that. And honestly, if you get it today with like the all the patches and all the upgrades and the mods and stuff like that, it still holds up even today. It's a very, very good game, very influential, and it's very popular in Eastern Europe. I don't know. The reason a lot of the devs left, I don't know the full history about it, but a lot of the devs left that dev because there were licensing issues to do with Stalker, and then they went off and made Metro instead, or something like that. I need to do more research about the timelines there, and I'm sure there's probably someone in chat who knows more about it. But there were some licensing issues with who truly owns a franchise, who truly owns a company, and there's a bunch of weirdness, which is why it's taken so long to get Stalker 2 into a position where it's even presentable or, possibly even coming out. But the game is huge. It's influential. It's a lot of developers like it. It's one of those games where that did a lot. It was a lot of games that it was a game that was a pioneering in a lot of ways, but the jank held it back from achieving truly mainstream success. Maybe I remember it was advertised a lot in the UK during WWE commercials. Like it was like Stalker was a sponsor of the WWE in the UK. I'm sure like some people might remember that. But yeah, it's a cool game, and it still holds up today if you get it with all the patches and stuff. I know you don't play on PC, though, because you are not of the master race and you prefer filmic games.
Yeah. So Johnny says, Rand has no idea when this game coming out. That's the problem a lot of people have with Rand. He says stuff like it's fact when it's not. He has no idea when Hellblade's coming out. Yeah, I know. That's you didn't hear me speculating about when it could potentially come out? Hello? Are you listening? Damn, I don't know. I didn't know people had a problem with me. I rarely speak in fact when it's clearly my own opinion about something. So I don't know what you're talking about, man. So, I mean, Jez, am I like losing my mind here? Like, when did I say anything about Hellblade for a fact, or when it was coming?
I don't know, man. People are just looking for reasons to be annoying, I guess.
I mean, it's possible it comes next year. It's possible it comes in 2022 or 2023. I don't know. That's literally. I mean, I give you three. Like, how is that me saying anything's for a fact? Like, what? Whatever. Warhammer 40k Darktide by Fat Shark. They missed an opportunity here to just call it Warhammer 40k Left 4 Dead, because that's what that game's probably more than likely going to end up being, right?
There's a bunch of Warhammer Left 4 Dead clones now. Is that like that whole Warhammer Space Hulk game was a Left 4 Dead clone? It's PS4 exclusive as well, and then like that Vermintide thing is Warhammer, but not 40k Left 4 Dead. You know, hopefully it's good, but Warhammer games have a stigma around them because they're often not very good. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Well, you're botting a little bit there. You're botting just a little bit, Jezzy.
Oh, great. I hate this bot stuff.
Wait, there you go. Now you're better. That was really quick. It was like you went to a bot and then you went into your regular voice or whatever. So you're all good. And these games are all console launch exclusives, which means they're probably timed and they'll come on other platforms a little bit later. Don't know when they're actually coming. Tetris Effect Connected, which is a game that came out on other platforms last year and now is going to come to Xbox with online multiplayer and like a new single player mode or something. Not much of a Tetris fan, but I know a lot of people love Tetris, so that's coming. Then there's this game called The Gunk, which I thought looked interesting. I think it's coming this year, or I'm not really sure. Not really sure with a lot of dates on these games. But I thought it was cool. Then The Medium. I thought The Medium looks really cool. And I think Xbox uploaded some more gameplay for it to check out actual gameplay for that game because it was a quick trailer. So it does really seem like it's side-by-side screen. You controlling the same character in two different realities and interacting with stuff and trying to figure stuff out. Like, I love the look of that game and the art style. Like that like diseased world or destroyed demon world or whatever she's in is really, really cool. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Phantasy Star Online 2, who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about Phantasy Star Online 2.
That game's quite big, you know.
Yeah, whatever. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about that. Why is it at the show? It's what, 10 years old at this point? Who cares about Phantasy Star Online?
Oh, wow, that's mean.
I mean, I'm not going to, like, here's the thing, like, there's stuff I care about and there's stuff I don't care about, and I'll be the first one to say it. Phantasy Star Online 2, I don't care. I just literally zoned out. I was watching it. Do not care. I mean, am I supposed to damage control and tell you the opposite of what I feel?
The worst thing about Phantasy Star Online is it's only available in the US. So
that is that.
If you want to play it in Europe, you have to switch region, download it, and then play on laggy American servers.
Yeah, I know. Who probably cares about Phantasy Star. Phil probably cares about Phantasy Star. He probably cares, and Baracho in chat cares about Phantasy Star. I just don't care about it. And Staji says I'm being straight up selfish. I mean, what do you mean? I didn't say it shouldn't be on the platform. I just said I don't care about Phantasy Star Online 2. I'm all happy for you guys to get your Phantasy Star. I just thought they could have done, better for it. Or something else. I just don't care. I mean, what am I supposed to say? That I'm happy Fantasy. I'm like, what am I supposed to say? I'm never going to play Phantasy Star Online 2. For me, it was a wasted announcement. I couldn't give two shits about it. So it's like, am I supposed to be like make a big deal out of it? I don't know. Rand Logic, who cares about World of Warcraft? It's like 20 years old. Exactly. I don't care about World of Warcraft. That's why we never talk about it. It's why whenever Jez talks about it, I always shut him up after 5 minutes. I don't want to talk about World of Warcraft. Crossfire X campaign. Surprisingly, I thought it looked pretty good. I ain't gonna lie.
I saw that behind closed doors.
And
I'm someone who doesn't really care about military shooters generally. Like, I always like my shooters to have a spin on them. Like, either they're sci-fi, like Prey, or like the World War II or World War I, like Battlefield 1 and stuff like that. And, like, I don't care so much about the modern day military shooters. I don't know why. It's just a thing I have. So like Crossfire X has always been something that I put to one side and didn't really care about. But after seeing the campaign gameplay yesterday behind virtual closed doors, I should say, it's on my radar now. Remedy are making it, and it's kind of like there's two warring private military corporations, basically, and they've become like global powers and they control governments or something. Like, I don't really know the full detail of the plot, but it was bombastic. It looked great. It had bullet time, like fear. And I haven't do you remember like how satisfying Fear's gunplay was with the bullet time and slow motion, shooting dudes and environmental destruction popping off and seeing all the debris and sparks fly around in slow motion?
Yeah.
Like Quantum Break, I guess. It was when I saw the game in motion and then slow motion, I was like, yes, I get it now. So I'm interested in it now. It's probably not going to be a game that I'm get super hyped about or anything, but the way it's going to work is that these operations are like part of its battle pass content. So you buy the battle pass for Crossfire X's multiplayer, you get the single player component, and then you also get the characters in the multiplayer and exclusive, tracks to earn unlocks and stuff like that. Like, it's a battle pass thing, and there's going to be 2 operations that are both 4 hours long each, like 2 episodes. So if you're into Crossfire X, which is a huge game in South Asia, like Korea and stuff like that, I think you'll enjoy it. But I don't think it's gonna blow anyone's minds. Maybe, I don't know. But I went from not caring about it to being actually vaguely interested in it. So
yeah,
that's better than nothing, I guess.
That's true. I'm gonna play it whenever it comes out, and I did see the campaign is not in Game Pass. But the multiplayer is. But the multiplayer is also free to play. They did make that distinction, and the multiplayer is going to require gold. So that's definitely interesting. I'm going to play the campaign. I don't know how much I'll play of the multiplayer. Catalyscus or Katsukai says, seems like game development for all games has been affected by the pandemic more than they care to admit. Keep fighting the good fight, Rand and Jess. Thank you for the support. I just saw an article pop up from Video Games Chronicle that basically 343 has maybe admitted Lockhart's real in a press thing.
Oh no!
Basically said that this article says that Chris Lee let slip that the game was made to run on, and I quote, all Scarlet devices or something. So
I love it. Oh dear.
I mean, if that's a true quote, then obviously, because the whole rumor was that you had reported back in the day was that Scarlet is a family of next-gen Xbox devices that include Anaconda and Lockhart. Anaconda Series X.
That's how they describe it internally. So, like, that guy probably had it on its mind that it's all Scarlet devices, and that's probably how they refer to it internally.
Yeah, so
they've just got to announce this thing now.
If you want to see, I saw it pop up from Video Game Chronicles sourcing GameStar or something. Mike wants to know if the Medium is the Medium a prequel to the Large. It's pretty funny, and yeah, and then it comes down to the end of the show, which everybody knew was going to be Fable. The guy said it was going to end the show. If Fable was real. For all the people that doubted that it existed in that playground. This was the worst kept secret in the world. And I think the Fable announcement didn't have the kind of punch that Microsoft expects. 1, because everybody knew it was real. And 2, it was a minute long. And it really showed nothing other than the existence of the game. I think maybe it would have a little bit more impact if the trailer was a little bit longer. Maybe showed the city. Maybe showed some characters. Instead of just like a fairy getting eaten by a toad. And that's kind of like the big
That was
thing.
Funny, man.
It was funny, and it gives you a sense of like, hey, there's a lot of things you can take away here. Like, Fable's still going to have the humor. It's a fantasy game. It's your story. There's going to be magic in it. I'm just saying, like, it was a game that was basically been known about for over 2 years now. And that Twitter account, by the way, remember the Twitter account that Tom Moore and we all kind of knew was the Fable account, and then Aaron Greenberg said it wasn't? That same Twitter account became the official Fable account. Imagine that.
Shocker.
Right? So everybody knew Fable was real. I just kind of feel like the announcement didn't, like, people aren't really talking about it in that way because it's been rumored for so long, and the trailer was very short and didn't really show that much. I don't know when the game's coming out. I don't think it's coming out anytime soon. I don't think you can expect it next year. That's what I'm saying. Like, most of the show was just like, here's our roadmap. Here's our roadmap for what the first party is doing for 9 of our studios. And we're going to give you, like, there's something here. If you're looking forward to Fable, Fable's coming. If you're looking forward to the next big Obsidian's RPG, it's on its way. You know, Halo is coming day one. It's a platformer. Don't got to worry about it. If you're into State of Decay, there's a new one coming, and it might look like this, right? We have some indie games coming, some bigger kind of console launch exclusives, like here's stuff coming. Here's Hellblade. We still have more stuff to show, but this is essentially the roadmap. And the big thing, like, this is all coming to Game Pass, which is an absolutely incredible deal. And the only kind of problem is that I don't think this, and it wasn't called the Xbox Series X game showcase, but like it didn't really do a good job of selling people on the Xbox Series X. I think it did a good job of maybe keeping people who were in the Xbox ecosystem in it, be like, okay, there's games coming finally, especially when you compare this show to like 2013, the reveal in 2013 versus this show. It's like night and day. But I don't think it really convinced people who were just, you know, PlayStation fans or people who had question marks about what Xbox was doing. I don't think it really convinced any of those people. That would be kind of my big takeaway from all this. Like, I know the games are coming, and I knew from when they first started buying these studios back in 2018 that the games were going to take time. And that's on Microsoft. They essentially waited way too long. Like, that's the story. They waited way too long to do all this stuff. They didn't build first party in the 360 area when they should have, right? They couldn't in the early Xbox One era because the Xbox One bombed to the point where the division had its budget and projects all canceled because who knows if Xbox One would even survive. Like, it completely bombed. And by the time Phil was able to get promoted and actually get and convince Satya and Amy Hood to invest in gaming, it was 2018. You need studios now. You buy the studios. Now you got to get them to make games. Games don't grow in trees. And here you have it. Like, all these games are in production, which is more than, you know, before. But the problem is, these games won't be here for probably 2 more years. So that's the kind of that's the big takeaway. The games are coming, but they're just going to be a while. And they still got more to show, which they haven't shared. So Nightwolf says, thanks for making my 10-hour ride to the beach entertaining, guys. # vacation time. Well, I hope you enjoy your vacation, man. Where are you going? You going to the beach? Well, he says he's going to the beach. What beach you going to? Stay away from crowds. We don't want more people getting sick. So
no, we don't.
So what else is on the horizon, Jez? We got anything to look forward to in August, you think?
Well, there's rumors of this whole platform event, which people are calling Xboxing Day for some reason. Not quite sure where that came from, actually. Is that just what Jeffrey Grubb called it for fun?
That's just what he called it for fun, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a whole Xboxing Day thing. Platform stuff, Lockhart maybe. Like, they have to announce Lockhart now, surely. It's getting silly.
I know,
So, also probably xCloud Beats. We'll probably get like the full list of games that are actually coming at xCloud rather than just, sort of guessing, because right now all we know is what is in preview, but I do suspect there's going to be a lot more than that in the end. Just have to wait and see what they do.
Yeah.
Gameplay wise, I don't know if there's going to be any more surprises at this point, but could be wrong.
Yeah. So I think that's probably where we're going to end the show, but we'll take some questions. So make sure you, if you got anything you want to ask, make sure you put it in the chat. We'll answer it. I want to thank everybody for being here. We had over like 1,700 people, which is always great. We'll put this up on iTunes and Spotify for you guys who want to listen to it that way, most likely tomorrow. And hopefully everybody enjoyed the show. And just hit us up with some questions. What are you playing right now, Jazz? Are you playing anything? You just chilling?
I'm still playing Other Side, man. Like, I love it. It's like the art style is amazing, and it's turn-based combat. It's bloody. It's like turn-based Devil May Cry, man. I love it. Actually, it's more like turn-based Dante's Inferno, I'll say. It's very like stylized, spooky art and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Really
Yeah, Nightwolf says North Carolina cottages are spaced out. Beachfront access is your beach, so no touchy for sure. That's good. Craig Jackson says, Randy Jazz, what about no Forza Motorsport gameplay at the show? And did Phil Spencer say that the game was in early development? Yeah, they didn't really have a gameplay demo, and Phil said it was in early development. So, who knows when that game's coming out. I'm just, I think Forza does need extra time to kind of... It was getting a little long in the tooth with this 8th entry in the series, so... Radimus says, hey, Randy Jazz, why do you think they allow that kind of pre-show?
I have no idea.
Good question.
What do you think they did?
I think they just kind of let Jeff Keighley kind of put it together, and they gave him some trailers, and he just was like, I need some of my influencer buddies to show up, but like none of the influencer buddies really like Xbox or know what's going on. So, you kind of end up with that, right? So Eudalus says, hey, what was your favorite part of the show? Jazz, what was your favorite part of the... I don't even need... State of Decay 3 was Jazz's favorite part of the show, right? Am I right?
Yes, it was. Although, I really like the Dragon Quest announcement because, I like those kind of games. So I think the Dragon Quest announcement should have been in the main show. But I guess they wanted the main show to be just Xbox Series X stuff. Because this is just it's Xbox One game upscaled on Xbox Series X or something. It's not being made for Xbox Series X, but I think that would have been a bigger announcement to put in the main show. Who cares, about that ultimately. I also really like that game the Riverbond devs making. What's it called now?
It's called Echo Generation.
Echo Generation, yeah. I really like the look of that game as an indie. It looked like 90s, 80s horror nostalgia. Kids exploring supernatural events in their town and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that game too. But I feel the same way about everyone else does. That I wish there'd be more gameplay, but it just is what it is. You either have to crumble into a puddle of tears and switch to PlayStation, like a lot of people in the influencer community or the wannabe YouTuber community have done, because you're sensitive to other opinions, or you just game on because there's so much games to play, and maybe you just don't really care about exclusives anyway because you play Overwatch all day like I do.
Yeah.
So,
my favorite part of the show, Halo Infinite. That was the biggest part of the show. I love Halo. It was nice getting to see the gameplay demo, and that CGI trailer at the beginning really got me excited. Maybe it could have been Fable if they showed something a bit more substantial. It could have been Hellblade 2 if they actually showed something. Could have been Avowed if they showed something more substantial. But for me, it was Halo Infinite. What else we got here? Let's see. What about COD 2020? I think they're revealing that sometime next month during their own thing. And Silder's Bane says, Random Jazz, do you think this might put more pressure on Microsoft to buy WB Interactive? As you like to say, they need games, and presumably they have a bunch of games ready to go. Yeah, they need games and studios if they want to reach their Netflix of gaming stuff. But the problem with WB is it's really expensive. I would like for them to buy it because I think the studios are worth it, but it ain't my money. So Microsoft needs to be the one to figure out if it's worth $4 billion and all that stuff.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. I've always said Microsoft needs 3 more studios, a big AAA studio, and probably a couple more mid-tier ones. But they, in my opinion, they do need more than what they have. Let's see. We have Fugly says, how about Bungie and Microsoft joining? You never know. They definitely seem like the relationship is very much repaired. DJ FX Kenya says, thoughts on Exo Mecha? I mean, it looked cool. It looked like Transformers fighting, but I think it's also a free-to-play game, so I have to take a wait-and-see approach on that. Calric says, do you think we'll see the Initiatives next show from Microsoft? So, in August, if in a response to PlayStation. I mean, it's possible. I think we do see. I mean, Matt Booty was pretty. He said at the show, like, we'll see more from their other studios later this year. That could point to something in August. That could point to something if they do an XO 2020, or the Game Awards are still there, or maybe they have some special launch event when they launch Series X in November, or maybe that's XO 2020. They could.
Weren't there
essentially
rumors that they were going to do the Tokyo Game Show this year?
Yeah, there's Tokyo Game Show, and I think they're still part of the Gamescom stuff. So I guess it all depends, man. I mean, if Sony comes out guns blazing in August, maybe Microsoft feels they need to move up some things they held back. It's only time will tell. But apparently, I say that like it's a fact. When I'm literally just like, I don't know. I literally saying I don't know, and the guy will be upset saying that's a fact. He goes, well, it is a fact because I don't know. What else we got here? Same thing from, do you think we'll see Initiative's game in August, or is it too soon? Maybe. Well, the thing is it too soon? I don't know, because Avowed was a really quick trailer, and Fable was a really quick trailer, so nothing is really too soon when you're building CGI trailers, right?
That's true.
So you can build a CGI trailer really quickly, and they could do one for Perfect Dark, even if it's Perfect Dark, and if that game is still years away, like a lot of these things are. Mariano says, since the reveal at the Game Awards, how do you two feel Microsoft is doing? Also, how's the back doing, Ryan? Thanks for the content. # simp for the Xbox too. The back's doing a lot better, man. Thanks for the question. So how do we feel that Microsoft's doing since the reveal, Jazz?
Of the Xbox Series X?
Yeah, since the reveal from the VGAs.
I think like they've done a lot better than they have in previous years. Like obviously the May thing was a blip, but like a lot of the stuff they'd done up to then was rock solid, revealing the specs with Digital Foundry, which is always the right thing to do. Let independent experts look at it, and xCloud stuff's been rolling out pretty well, although kind of sucks if you're on an iPhone, because I don't know if you saw this, Ran, but in the information about Destiny, in the blog post about Destiny coming to xCloud, there's no mention of iPhone, just the Android version.
Yeah, iPhone's going to be probably going to take a little bit on that.
If you want xCloud, I'm going to say right now, if you really want xCloud, you're going to have to switch to Android or get an Android tablet, because Apple is not going to make it easy for Microsoft to put basically an ecosystem into their ecosystem. Apple hates this. This is why Apple makes it hard for Google and YouTube to sell like YouTube Music or YouTube subscriptions on their platform. They make it hard for Spotify to sell subscriptions on their platform, because Apple is anti-competitive, and that's why they're going through anti-competitive lawsuits in Europe and maybe even the US, like based on some court filings. So like seriously, if you want to play on xCloud, you need to switch to an open platform, which is Android. And you need to get an cheap Android tablet, costs about $200, $300. Just get I've got a Samsung Galaxy Tab A. It costs like $300. It's not the best tablet in the world, but it works for xCloud. And frankly, I'd rather play it on an 8-inch screen than a 6-inch phone screen anyway. But yeah, I don't think Apple fans are going to be happy with Apple cock blocking xCloud. It's just the way it's going to go.
Yeah.
But I think they've been doing mostly a good job.
I mean, I think the rollout of the hardware stuff has been great. They stumbled really heavily in May, and I guess like it really depends on your own. Like, were you satisfied with this show? Did you hate this show? And if you hated it, then they completely fell flat on your face. If you loved it, then they did good. I still think Microsoft is better at showcasing hardware in like trailers and talking about it than they are showcasing the games that they have.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they're better at the hardware stuff than the game stuff. I think they just, I don't know, they just don't really showcase games very, very well. That seems to be a problem that they've had for a long time. So, they're doing good for now. But I don't think it was as good as they were doing. Because now you need to show the games, and like, they're there, but they're very far away, and some of them are CGI, so it's like, I kind of it's really tough to get excited about CGI stuff, for me at least. Sasha says, hey, Ran and Jez, can you two stop taking turns getting sick or hurting and just have a relaxing week playing games? I hope so. Hopefully this week will be a relaxing week, and I'll be playing Ghost of Tsushima a lot, so I can talk about it extensively on the next show. Because that game is really good, but it's also really long. East Coast says, Rand, I got 2 questions. Where was the global publishing team in the show? They seemed really weak this time around, and can we expect studio acquisitions in August? I think the global publishing game was that As Dust Falls game, and I think they have more. That was just the one they showed here. As to why more of them didn't show up, I don't know. Studio acquisitions, I mean, expect, like, they made it pretty clear that they're not to expect them in this show. I mean, if they make them, it'll just be an announcement. Certainly anything's possible. But what do you think, Jez? You think they gonna make any studio acquisition announcements anytime soon?
I have no idea. These things are complicated because it depends on local laws. Like, for example, if they're acquiring a company in one country, it might be like, oh, we better just announce it because all of this stuff's going to be public information anyway. But if they're announcing it in another country where they don't have to make it public, then they could save it for a big press release or something like that.
Yeah.
For example, I think, like, if they acquired a massive studio like Bungie, they'd want to announce it as soon as possible because they'd have to inform staff. Because if they acquired Bungie, some people will probably be made redundant because they don't need Bungie's marketing team. They don't need a lot of Bungie's staff, you know. So there'd be considerations to make. It's complicated when you announce a studio because you have to remember that it's not just about our hype. It's about all the people affected by the acquisition. It's about the staff. It's about the potential shareholders or people who own. Like, if the company's private, does anyone actually own any equity in the company? Do they have to be informed? Will they leak it? You know, stuff like that. You know,
yeah.
It's a complicated process, and it depends on a lot of factors. So yeah, if they acquire a studio and it makes sense to announce it before it leaks or gets made public, then yeah, they'll announce it before August. Sometimes they just can't hold it back for a show because of multiple factors. So yeah.
Captain Lester says, Insider Rand, when will the Xbox handheld come out? Love you guys, great show. Never. The Xbox handheld will never come out. Just so Jez can never experience that.
Don't be so sure, Rand.
Yeah, I know. King John Big Bomb says, hey, Rand, what is your take on if Xbox Live Gold will be going free? Well, there's something going on with Xbox Live Gold. Will it change? Will multiplayer be free? Will they get rid of Gold completely? I don't know. But something clearly is changing with that service. And we'll probably find out I think we'll find out probably this year. Wouldn't you say, Jez?
Yeah, I think, like, the whole reason they stopped the annual thing is because maybe it'll change. I don't think they'll get rid of the paywall outright because, like we just talked about before, it subsidizes the hardware, and there's a lot of reasons why just getting rid of that straight away is not a good idea.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, so it could go either way. We just need to wait.
Stagy Caesar says, do you think we'll see Hellblade 2 in August to show off the Series X? I would say probably no, because then what was the point of them being in the show now? What was the point of them being in the show now if you're going to show off gameplay for it the following month? That's kind of the way I would look at it. I don't think we'll see Hellblade 2 again, and maybe they do a VGA thing, but probably more than likely whatever they do for E3 next year. But yeah, so you know what? Details William says, where's Cuphead DLC or Flight Sim? Well, Flight Sim is about to come out on PC next month. It'll eventually come out on Xbox at some point in time. They said that it will come out on Xbox Series X. Don't know when. Probably sometime after launch, maybe 2021. Maybe that's one of the games for 2021. Keep on talking about, like, you look at these lists of games and you try to figure out when they're coming. It doesn't seem like they're coming 2021. Flight Sim might be one of those games. So
yeah, that's true.
Gears Tactics might be one of those games. Oh, I think Gears Tactics is this year.
Gears Tactics is a launch game.
Yeah, figured.
I heard that.
Gears Tactics launching with Gears Tactics should have launched for the Xbox day one with PC.
I don't know, man.
Should have. You want to talk about it, you want to play your games on device that you want and whatever, but sometimes you don't do that. I get maybe Flight Sim, but I don't get Gears Tactics. Anyways, that's what we're going to end the show on today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Shout out to all you in the I just got a funny message. I just broke concentration trying to end the show. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll be back next week with another podcast. So, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to get, follow the channel, and hit the notification bell if you always want to get notified whenever I upload new videos or whenever this podcast goes live. And make sure you follow me and Jez on Twitter. Obviously, it's on the screen. So, yeah. Hope you guys have a great weekend. And keep it gaming, guys. We will see you next week. Later.